I now invite the President and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Margaret Gardner, to present a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Deputy Chancellor, Mr. Anthony D'Aloisio has made outstanding contributions as a regulator and lawyer, having served in executive and non-executive roles in business and in government enterprises. He's currently the chairman of Perpetual Limited, but he has held a series of very significant roles across his working life. Among some of his principal executive roles, Mr. D'Aloisio was Chief Executive Partner at Mallison Stephen Jarks between 1992 and 2004, a firm he joined in the mid-70s as a commercial lawyer. His principal areas of practice included mergers and acquisitions, taxation and restrictive trade practices, and international trade and investment. Following this distinguished career, he was Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at the Australian Stock Exchange and Executive Chairman of the Australian Securities Commission. In 2001, Mr. D'Aloisio was awarded the Centenary Medal for service to Australian society through his work in law and taxation. He was also recognised in the 2012 Queen's Birthday Honours as a member of the Order of Australia for service to business and commerce, particularly through leadership roles in the securities and investments regulatory sector, to Australia-Asia relations and to charitable organisations. Throughout his career, Mr. D'Aloisio has been committed to giving back to the community and playing an active role supporting those who have been disadvantaged or are marginalised. He has had as well a significant focus on working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. He has served in a number of roles in the not-for-profit and community services area, including as Director of the Australian Charities Fund, of the Atlas D'Aloisio Foundation, President of the European Capital Markets Cooperative Research Centre. He actually has a very extensive range of commitments to the broader community through his work. We're very proud that Mr. D'Aloisio is also a Monash alumnus, having graduated with a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Law honours from this university. In addition, he's had extensive work with Monash as a member of the Monash University Medical Foundation. Mr. D'Aloisio was also appointed a Vice-Chancellor's Professorial Fellow, where he was involved in the development and implementation of a series of activities across the student research and operational activities of the university, and he also assisted with work towards specialist business think tank work for the broader community. It's hard in a few short minutes to do credit to what is a very long and distinguished career, not a career solely for his own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole community in the many roles he has played for government in the not-for-profit and the community sector. Deputy Chancellor, it gives me the greatest pleasure to present to you for admission to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, Anthony Michael D'Aloisio.
With the authority of Council, I admit you, Anthony Michael D'Aloisio, to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. I now have the honour of inviting Dr. D'Aloisio to deliver the graduation address.
May I just start by adding my acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I particularly pay my respects to all First Nations people here today, and I recognise their continuing connection to land, to water and to community. Deputy Chancellor Dr Megan Clark, President and Vice-Chancellor Professor Margaret Gardner, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing, Health and Sciences, Professor Christina Mitchell, members of the faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and especially the new graduates. May I first thank the University for bestowing on me this honorary doctorate. I am honoured and sincerely humbled by the recognition. It did come as a complete surprise, although a very welcome one, so thank you. Today is, as it should be, all about you, the graduates. This is your day. Let me add my congratulations to each and every one of you. It's a pleasure, a real pleasure to be here to celebrate your success. And it was wonderful hearing all the names and the achievements. A wonderful life milestone, well done and extremely well deserved. Enjoy the day and enjoy sharing your success with your parents and family and friends. Give them lots of hugs and kisses. Very appropriate to do that today. As a parent, I know how proud I was when children Corinda and Stuart graduated, and I also remember how proud my parents were, who have now sadly passed away, when I graduated here at Monash some, 48 years ago. My graduation gave me the opportunity to reflect on just what my parents had sacrificed and done for me. They had migrated to Australia in 1956 from Italy when I was 7. They had few possessions, they spoke no English, no secondary or tertiary qualifications. But they embraced this country and worked hard and seized the opportunities to ensure that each of their children, all 5 of us, received a good education. I miss them, but I know how proud they would have been if they were here today. And on a day such as this, I think it's it's important to also pause and thank our teachers who have helped us along the way. Maybe for them, just political correct handshakes rather than hugs and kisses, but we should thank them as well. As I reflected in preparing for this, I remembered the kindness of Miss Betty, as we knew her in grade 2 at Lilydale State School, in helping me with the English language, having just arrived in Australia. And then there was Mr Hamilton, Mr Penfold at Lilydale High School, who took really particular interest in my background and my development, and similarly at university. So really thank you to all our teachers. Now, speaking of university, I was an undergraduate here between 1968 and 1972. Yes, that was the period when Monash also became known for its student radicalism on issues of the Vietnam War and conscription, and for supporting Aboriginal land rights well before Mabo. I do remember the numerous demonstrations and blockades, both on campus and off campus. In fact, when I was looking at this, I came across an old anti-conscription demonstration photo which had caught me in the frame. Long beard, trying to look aggressive. Well, I don't know, me really, I thought. But it's good to see the university didn't hold that against me, so thank you. While some of those, but more seriously, I guess, while some of those protests on campus were concerning to the university's administration at the time, and on one occasion did involve the occupation of the council chambers, it It was really to the university's credit that they recognised that protest and dissent is an important part not only of university but of democracy itself. Now, in addition to graduating at this university, my connection with Monash over my career has been with, for example, law graduate group recruitment through the law firm that I was in for some 27 years, through interaction with academic staff and occasional alumni functions. But I'd like to talk a little bit about more recent times. From 2012 to 16, I served on the Monash University Medical Foundation, and there I met your Dean, Professor Christina Mitchell, whose passion and drive for really wanting to make a difference in health was inspirational. The then chair of the foundation, Jeremy Nestle, and the deputy chair, Dr. Dan Evans, were equally passionate about making a difference through philanthropy. And one of the priority themes for the foundation at the time was healthy living, and under that heading, improving health, Indigenous health and well-being featured high. Now, Dr. Evans and I undertook to see how we could, through philanthropy, assist the university with meaningful programs in this area. We tried a few different things with very mixed success. And finally, we were both so pleased to be involved and assist with what we now know as this faculty's growing Indigenous graduates program. We were impressed with the objective of that program. The objective was to support more graduates who could walk confidently in multiple worlds, in Indigenous communities and with healthcare professionals. The Gukwandaruk team, under the leadership of Professor Karen Adams, with the support of the Dean and the university, and with some modest support from philanthropy, has produced some impressive results. And by way of example, it was pleasing to see that the unit had an important part to play in the increase in 2020 graduations, with 18 Indigenous students graduating, and of those 16 had come via the faculty's Indigenous Access Scheme. 4 had received 1 or more accommodation scholarships, 2 had received travel assistance to relocate from rural areas, and 4 received specialised tutoring. I'm pleased to say that today there are 4 Indigenous students graduating here. Really, congratulations to them, but congratulations to all involved with the program. And my wife, Alana Rattlers AO, who is here today, and I, through our foundation, do look forward to continuing our association and support. So well done. The Chancellor, in his letter inviting me to accept this honorary doctorate, also clearly asked me to say words to you, the graduates. And to be asked that is a great honour, but I did accept with some trepidation. After all, what could I add to such an accomplished group? You are simply brilliant. You're the cream of the crop. You have inquiring minds, deep analytical skills. You're driven by values of excellence and integrity and respect. You know the importance of humility and team ahead of self. You understand diversity in its broader sense, probably in my view better than any generation before you. And you simply know what hard work is and what's required to achieve. That's why you deserve to be here, and hence my trepidation. Nevertheless, as I did reflect on my career, I thought, well, maybe there could be some insights that have helped me along the way and have come out of my experience rather than out of textbooks. Maybe they could be of interest to you. I hope so. I'll cover a few. The first is really the role that luck plays in our careers. Now, we're all hardwired to think that competency will equal success, and indeed that's why we've studied so hard. And that is to a large degree true. However, there is also luck. How lucky was I that my parents came to Australia when they did? And how lucky were they that at the time Australia had open borders? How lucky are we today in this country rather than countries of hardship and conflict? Contrast that to our parents and grandparents who grew up with world conflicts and economic depression. So let's be thankful for that luck. But for me, it has made me appreciate that we are the custodians for future generations. And to the extent that we can, we should do all that we can so that that luck continues for them. This means getting involved and having a view and dealing with big picture issues outside our day-to-day, whether it was conscription then, but now issues such as climate change, sharing of vaccines, health discoveries, and the voice. Another thing about luck is that it also creates opportunities, career opportunities. We talk about being in the right place at the right time. I started out in a career of practicing law. I took opportunities along the way to move into management, CEO roles, board roles, and even running our own business. These were not scripted. They were not part of a bigger plan. They were not a strategic plan that corporations may have. They were responding to opportunities and seeing opportunities that came along. I've been so glad that I took them, and I really encourage you, where you can, to do the same. The second, observation is the importance of business relationships. Now, we all know the importance of nurturing and supporting each other with our personal relationships. But what became apparent to me when I started out as a young lawyer was the importance of business relationships for success. And in my case, examples of those were the relationships with senior partners, who were these days known as mentors, relationships with clients in understanding what they are and what they need, relationships with employees, with fellow practitioners, sharing learnings and supporting each other. It is through building, I found, and maintaining those relationships, and preferably through personal interaction and connection rather than just, for example, through LinkedIn. It's through that relationships create loyalty. They create a positive image of you. They create a word-of-mouth referrals that are much, much better than any marketing. They take time and effort to build and to maintain, but relationships, in my experience, are enduring to our career success and really what makes it the careers enjoyable. I guess the third is fairly obvious but worth restating, and that's the cardinal rule to always judge people on their ability. And we often say, don't judge a book by its cover, and so it is with people. Never underestimate based on appearance, whether ethnicity, gender, age, and so on. In my case, with my hard to spell and hard to pronounce surname and my Italian background, I did have occasions where it was apparent to me that maybe my views were being discounted, not because of the merits of the argument. Now, when I became aware of that, I did learn to use it to advantage, particularly in negotiations. Let them think that they had the upper hand, they had your measure, and then you play your own hand. So it isn't all that bad. But basically, for me, it's always been a case of focusing on the merit of the argument and not appearance. And it's, from time to time, it's worth reminding ourselves that the smartest ideas are not the province of any particular group or particular individual. A fourth observation is on media and public scrutiny. As professionals, something that has always been there has been managing and protecting our professional reputations through excellent work, through well-researched and managed publications. In more recent time, with the advent and the dominance of social media, this management has become more difficult. The media has a voracious appetite for content. Damaging individual reputations is really mere shrapnel. Truth is lost, as is fairness to the individual. Sometimes politicians weigh in, as we've seen with some recent examples. When the dust settles, they move on to the next story, but the reputation impact on the individual can be severe. Even, where there was nothing in it, the individual was cleared, no wrongdoing or anything, but the reputation damage remains. I felt this most acutely as chairman of the Australian Securities Investments Commission. I was the chairman during the global financial crisis, and investment decisions that people had made turned out not to be, to be bad, and they were looking for a guarantor of last resort. And the commission, the chair, came under extreme pressure. The fact that investments always have risks was not what the media or investors wanted to hear. They wanted a guarantor of last resort. Now, there's no script that's been written to enable you to handle these media and public situations if you become embroiled. What I've found is that by being transparent and open, responding carefully to each issue definitely helped. It may not have won the day with some, but over time it did assist in maintaining the overall respect for the office and for the individual's reputation. And in this, spare a thought for the individuals that are embroiled in this. It's important, if people in your relationships, an individual is embroiled in this, to take time out to call them, talk to them, and see if you can assist in some way. That human contact will never be forgotten. It's important to them at that particular time. And too often we stand back. We think that where there's smoke, there's fire. Even if that is the case, definitely that human contact with people in your relationships is extremely important, both to them and I think to us as well. Finally, a comment on disappointments. Now, I hope you do not, but inevitably you will face disappointment. In my case, I've known of disappointment as early as in year 11, when we were asked to do an IQ test for careers. I did mine, and in the debrief, the counsellor asked what I wanted to be. And at that point, I had a clear answer. I wanted to be a lawyer and go to university. She hesitated and shuffled, and then said, "Have you thought of being a tradesman?" Later in life, I was CEO of a large public company and involved in a large merger with another public company who also had a CEO. And with such mergers, there's only room for one CEO, and I missed out. So you can readily appreciate the disappointment from each of those by someone who aspires to be a high achiever. But what mattered to me in each case was how I responded. It was not really all that relevant analysing how I got there and why. Those of you, men and women who play golf, will know that if your ball lands in the rough, it matters little analysing at that point how you got there. That's for another day. At that point, it's all about how you play the next shot. And in each case, I quickly moved on. I went into year 12 determined to do law, and I did. And I moved from that CEO role to another CEO chair role. So really remaining focused on the future and not worrying too much about what had happened. Let me move to make some closing remarks. I am 71 and I've had a wonderful career and life. What is truly remarkable is that I am as excited today about what I'll do next, what business I venture I may go into, as I was when I graduated. I hope you will have the same passion and excitement throughout your life. Finally, as graduates of this faculty and as health professionals, we and future generations will be indebted to you. You will be the custodians not only of the current health system, but of its future possibilities. Now, don't get me wrong, I love living. I want to be here as long as you can keep me here, and I am relying on you. I hope you will continue to be inspired, as I have been, by the words of your Dean, and share her vision of improving the human condition. It has no expiry date. Good luck, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deloisio, and what wonderful reminders that you gave the students. Thank you for what you have done and your contribution to Monash. Thank you for supporting the education of Indigenous students from around the country. We really appreciate it. I'm sort of glad that you grew the beard and found your voice at Monash. So I'm sure these graduates didn't have time for any of that, but finding your voice to speak out about important issues, obviously an important part of university life. You reminded us that the next generation are the custodians of making sure that they create luck for those who come after them. And you reminded us too, with some of the challenges that you had faced, that beneath all leadership sit two critical things: accountability and integrity, and bringing those together sometimes to face the difficult challenges and sometimes critical appraisal. The integrity and accountability always win through. Thank you so much for your address, and I hope you take many of those messages from Dr. Deloisio with you into your future and reflect upon them. Graduates, as you... thank you.